Hi everyone, welcome back to Voice Calling Out. If you're new around here, my name is Julia Hartmeier and I am a psychotherapist in training and work as a psychotherapist. And I am also a Christian person. And on this channel, on the Voice Calling Out, I like to just tackle mostly mental health related questions. Not necessarily talking about disorders, but just stuff that impacts our mental health that is kind of on the intersection of where faith meets psychology, meets everyday life, meets relationships, meets everything. Because I think that intersection is kind of a really important thing to take a look at and unpack and make sure that we are all able to just talk about the same things when we use the same words and kind of understand how some things work out from a Christian perspective, for example. So if you're interested about this kind of topics, welcome. Make sure that you leave your comments with every kind of comment that you have, every kind of remark. If you agree, tell me why and how does that look like in your life. And if you don't, tell me why and how does that look like in your life. And I hope that this place can be really a place of conversation, of listening and argumentation and reasoning, and let's add to positivity in this world when we talk about sensitive issues. So if you've been around for the last couple of weeks, I have been talking a little bit more about kind of the Christian experience of dealing with mental health issues. Not all of the Christian experience, but specifically about when people tell you that you should be praying more if you are experiencing mental health issues. And I talked about in another video, which you're very welcome to check out after you've listened to this one, on how to understand this biblically and how can it help you in your mental health process. On the other side, in this video, I want to talk about how and why, in which circumstances, situations, intersections of intentions and misunderstandings and just sensitive saying you should just pray more can actually cause more harm than good. And just give you a couple of guidelines if you've ever gone through this in your life or you have people in your life, to how to go about this. As Christians, we agree on the fact that prayer is important. I unpacked this in my other video. And if someone in your life, in your church, in your community, in your family is going through something that is difficult from a mental health perspective, or is just difficult enough that it affects their mental health, telling them to just pray more can leave in a couple of ways a bad taste in your mouth. When someone is going through something hard, if they talk to you about it, that more often than not will mean that they are not looking for your advice, they are looking for your relationship. What does this mean? When we are going through something hard, we want to share that. And sometimes we specifically need help. And believe me, when someone needs help, they will tell you. They say, I need help in this. Or I specifically need advice in this. But in the vast majority of cases, what's asked of you, with or without words, is that you just listen. And you kind of just like allow them some space to talk to you about it, to unload the stuff that they have. They need your relationship. And it is a very, very, very godly thing, a very biblical thing, to give relationship as a place to suffer. It is what God does with us. And you are not doing something unbiblical if you first listen and really listen and maybe even forgo the whole go and pray more thing, at least until a certain point in your relationship. We should be aware of this. What mostly helps is a relationship. This is the core, and I found this to kind of work in different ways. And for one, it gives the feeling that you are not listening, right? Because in order to listen, we need to stop talking. We need to allow space for what we are listening. So if someone is looking for you to be their listening partner and you are giving advice, then what you're effectively doing is not giving them what they came to you to do, what they came to you to receive, which is effectively being unloving. And if you've listened or will listen to my other video about the legitimacy of giving the advice of prayer, then you know that I am advocating for that to have a place in your relationship as well. but I'm mostly talking about acute situations when someone just has something that they are going through and it's really hard. The fact that you are just jumping into giving that advice is more unloving than you probably intended to be. Secondly, by giving advice, you position yourself above them. And that's really not an easy space to be in, because if somebody is suffering, then that's kind of the worst thing that you can do. What you want to do, and if you have good and loving intentions towards this person, you want to do the same thing that God did through Jesus. The incarnation of what God did was like kind of coming from heaven to earth, down to be there and to share the space and the time and the circumstances of the people who were suffering. And yes, he taught, that is true, but more than anything, he shared, he listened, and that is something that is a very godly thing to do if you want to be next to your friends or family or whoever when you're going for something, is to not position yourself as someone who knows what they need to do, even if you might have the feeling that prayer would do them some good. I am going to, as I said, you want to position yourself next to them, so that they can use your relationship as a support system. And there is time when we give advice, but that is not the time when things are very acute and very hard and very emotionally upset. And the third thing that I think is really important to remember when we're giving advice instead of a relationship is that, and this is hard, by giving advice, we are working in problem-solving mode, and we are basically doing that to relieve the emotional stress that we ourselves are under when someone next to us is suffering. And that we are all guilty of this, and it's very normal, because when we share with someone and they're there in their acute emotional distress, however that came in their lives or whatever that looks like, we are also activated. Our bodies, our nervous systems are like, oh, I can't take this is stressful. And we obviously want to solve that. And when we jump to, oh, just do that, or just do that, even if, and especially if that is, oh, just go pray, it's such a mean thing to do, because we are alleviating our own pain, and are putting on and are taking away from them the opportunity to just be in a relationship and just be listened to and just be comforted by our presence. And because we are not saying this in the right circumstances, in the right moment, we are also letting go the good moment of giving advice with expectation to seek help from God, as I talked about. And I think that's just, it's mean. It's in the end unloving and mean. It's kind of like saying, I can't deal with you right now, go to God. But not with these words. And what we basically do is making them take responsibility for our feelings, instead of us being there for them as they take responsibility for their own feelings, right? So if you are in the situation, which obviously we all are in some parts, in some seasons or circumstances in our lives, my most honest and most godly advice that I can give to you is to be really honest with yourself. If you are giving advice because this is hard for you, then realize that you are trying to relieve your own emotional stress, and be courageous enough to step back and say, I am so sorry. I cannot take this emotional stress. For me, this is too much. I'm so sorry. I cannot give you my relationship, and for this moment. And I know that's very hard, and it will feel like a very hurtful thing to do, but believe me, it's a very loving thing to do, because they will be better off understanding that what they're dealing with right now needs to be taken in a place that has enough space for them, than if you kind of, belittle what you are going through by just kind of say, oh, just go and pray, And I know these are hard things for me to say, but this is basically kind of how I see it problematic when we say, oh, just pray, when we hear someone going through a hard time. So I hope this is helpful to you whenever you find yourself in these kinds of situations. I hope that you can remember the principle of giving advice instead of a relationship, because all the advice that you want to give and are allowed to and should give in certain circumstances should be based on that loving and caring relationship that you already have. So it's like, cultivate the relationship first. Give your time, your ear, your shoulders, your words of comfort, or just whatever you can give out of a relationship, especially in an acute moment. And in another time, when things are a little bit more calmed, or just, nobody is acutely suffering or crying, then maybe have that conversation about who God is in your lives. If this is if you feel like you have enough confidence in the relationship to talk about this, what prayer means in their lives, offer to pray with them. Make sure you pray for them way before you ask them to pray for themselves, and foster that common understanding and talk about it. And all of these things can easily be done on the basis of a loving, trustful, honest, open, vulnerable, authentic relationship. And I guess if I could put my finger on where I feel that Christians go wrong with these kinds of readily made advices of how to deal with whatever mental health kind of issue is there, that it gives the feeling that you can bypass the relationship altogether because you already have like a go-to answer, and that is unloving and basically unbiblical. Because if you, again, I will reference my other video on prayer. The whole idea of the relationship between God and humans, and the whole idea of prayer is something that is relational. So if we know that God, and if we have that God in our lives, then we should cultivate becoming more and more relational people and having a relational intelligence, so to speak, so that we can offer first and foremost ourselves as in a relationship. That is more often than not more than enough for an acute situation. I really honestly hope that this was something that kind of unpacking it in this way was helpful. I hope that you could reflect with me and think with me about these kind of things. Let me know in the comment sections if you think I am onto something here, or if I'm not seeing something, or if you see something differently than I do. And I hope that whether or not you, my dear listener, are a Christian or not identify as such, you can learn something from this case. And at the very least, we talk about these kinds of things. For some reason, I think that's just really, really great and important thing to do. Okay, so thank you so much. You know what to do. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike, comment, I'll just like, comment and share. And if you like this kind of topics, consider subscribing to my channel. And if you subscribe, make sure that you also hit the bell notification. So until then, take great care of yourselves and see you next time. Bye!